What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the stream. We will be doing state of the gaming industry a little late tonight, but I did make it before 12 o'clock, so it is technically still Wednesday. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, theys and thems, whatever you identify as. So today we're going to be talking about a few topics. We're going to be talking about the Helldivers 2 fall off, if it's even that significant or not. We're going to be talking about Capcom's kind of come out. They had their Capcom Next showcase talking about new Resident Evil. Of course, the Dead Rising remake or remaster that's coming out. We got Nintendo talking about Nintendo Switch 2, how they're going to combat scalpers and things like that, and a few other things. So let's start off with what games are releasing this week. So first off, we got few here. So first off, yesterday we had the Final Fantasy XIV expansion, Dawn Trail, that came out. Then we have Resident Evil 7 coming out on the Mac as well as iPhone, so any iOS device. I'm sure that's iPads as well. We have the first Descendant coming out on PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, Xbox One, and PC. That came out yesterday. And then tomorrow, for 4th of July, we got Zenless Zone Zero for PS5, PC, iOS, and Android. And then finally, on Friday, we have Legend of Heroes Trails Through Daybreak coming out for PS5, PS4, Switch, and PC. Now, my video for July video game releases, if you guys haven't checked that out, that's out on the channel. Pretty much I named like three out of the 5 games here. So if you check that video out, you already knew this was coming out. But if you're interested in those, they are coming out for this week. But let's get into the first topic. So first topic today that we're going to be talking about is going to be about Xbox coming to Fire TV devices. So this, again, so I won't call this controversy, but let's go to the first the tweet that Xbox put out. So the official Xbox account put out this tweet saying Xbox Gaming, they said no console, no problem. Let's make this a little bigger. No console, no problem. Xbox Gaming is coming to select Amazon Fire Sticks as well as Fire TVs. If you have the device, actually I think it's only Fire Sticks. Yeah, no Fire TV. So that's interesting. Where you'll be able to play games directly from the Xbox app. So we could go to the actual article. Now, we kind of know this. We've been talking about it for a while. Xbox's strategy as far as wanting to be on as many devices, as many screens as possible. They're not just sticking to their own hardware, right? Microsoft is a software company, after all. So some people are saying like, okay, now this is showing their further commitment to not care about hardware, but I don't see it like that. The way I see it, and I've said this before, where I feel like in the future, they're kind of just going to be platforms, right? Like it's just going to be the Xbox platform. There's going to be the PlayStation platform, the Nintendo platform. There's not going to be a necessarily like, oh, you can only play it on this specific device or the Switch 5 or the PS7. Like it's going to be called PlayStation and you can use their dedicated hardware if you want to, or if you want to play it in a different way. So that's the thing here. So I think people saw this and kind of flew off the handles without checking the details. So if we check the details in the article from Microsoft on Xbox Wire on their post, it says, at Xbox, we're committed to bringing the joy and community of gaming to everyone. Today, we're announcing a collaboration with Amazon, where Xbox Game Pass Ultimate members in over 25 countries can play games directly from the Xbox app on select Fire TV devices via cloud gaming. So that one sentence alone kind of told you that it's not just like, oh, it's just everywhere or it's on all Fire device. Like they said, it's Game Pass Ultimate specifically. It's in 25 countries and it's select Fire TV devices. So it says right here in July, the Xbox app will be available on number 1, the Fire TV Stick 4K Max, which is a $60 device. And I guess this is a link to buy it if you want to. and then the Fire TV Stick 4K, which is a $50 device. So again, it's very specific to, it's not just like a free for all, right? Like you need these two specific Fire Sticks. You need Game Pass Ultimate. And you have to be in a certain country. I'm sure America is on there, or the North American countries are on there. So yeah, it says to get started, all you need is the Fire Stick, Bluetooth enabled controller, and then a Game Pass Ultimate um, subscription or membership. So again, the way I look at it is like Xbox is not sticking to just the traditional rules. Like sometimes you rather be a little early than a little late. Like you don't want to just end up making these moves too late. Like this is kind of where the future is headed. And again, they're not going to keep trying to out console Sony or out console Nintendo just to prove people on the internet wrong. Like that's just not the game they're in right now. So to me, again, this isn't a big step away from hardware. It's just another option for people. Like that's what people need to realize. Everything's about options. If you want to do it this way, you can. If you have these devices already, maybe you don't feel like investing in a whole console or building a PC. Like people got to realize, like they come from all different walks of life, different shapes, sizes, ideals, everything like that. So if you have these Fire Sticks already, or if you want to just buy one, hey, $60, get Game Pass Ultimate for, was it $16, $17 a month, or buy the full year or whatever. Like that's still cheaper than buying even a Series S, as cheap as the Series S is. And it's cloud gaming, so it's not even, every game's available in there. So again, not the ideal way to play because cloud gaming isn't exactly where it needs to be fully yet. But, again, it's an option for people. So I don't see this as a bad thing at all. But speaking of bad things, or potentially bad things, let's start talking about Nintendo. So it was asked. Pull up my bookmarks here. So this comes from Stealth on Twitter. If you guys don't know, he mostly posts like Nintendo content or whatever. But there was an investor meeting over for Nintendo recently, and they asked them, okay, what are you going to do about scalpers? So if people don't know what a scalper is basically a reseller, and they call it scalping because they're like basically cutting your head off or the top of your head off for these prices. And as a reseller myself, when it came to sneakers and stuff like that, I didn't know video games where systems were resold like that. So during the pandemic, especially with the new systems, the PS5 and Xbox Series, people were selling them for $800, $900, $1,000, $1,200 even, and people were so desperate to get the new system. People were stuck in the house. They just paid it. So they asked Furukawa, who's the president, what they're going to do about scalpers, and he said they'll produce enough Switch 2s to meet demand, so they won't have to resort to buying from scalpers. So during the pandemic, one of the major issues with scalping came from the fact that there was this semiconductor shortage when it came to chips, and this wasn't just video game systems. It was like pretty much everything that used these chips, and the Switch kind of suffered with that. So the crazy thing about that is the fact that the Switch sold so well and is continuing to sell so well, but it could have sold even more, especially during the pandemic when everybody was inside playing, Animal Crossing and Mario Kart and everything like that. They could have sold even more if they didn't have these chip shortages. So, and that led to scalping as well. So it was kind of crazy to see a system that was 3-4 years old get scalped. Like normally that happens when it first comes out, but hey, supply and demand. So as we can see during the interview or the Q&A with the shareholders, it says the company execs were asked what measures they were taking to stop reselling of its next console, meaning the Switch 2, as we know will be coming sometime next year. Given that at last year's meeting they said they were planning to do so. So Furukawa said their main plan for combating scalping is to make sure players don't have to turn to resellers because they can't buy a console at retail. So he said that the most important thing is to provide sufficient numbers to meet customer demand. In addition, he takes into account the circumstances in each region, and then also noted that the semiconductor shortage that affected numerous companies' ability to produce new hardware in recent years is no longer an issue. So, again, they did announce that the Switch 2, or whatever they're going to call it, Nintendo's next console, is going to be announced at some point before or some point in this fiscal year. So the fiscal year is different for every company. For Nintendo, it ends in March 2025. So at some point between now and March 2025, they will be announcing their new console. Now, a lot of people kind of figured they would try and launch in March, just like they did the original Switch. Now, that hasn't been confirmed. But what a lot of people are thinking is maybe in September, or, normally they have a direct around that time, right before the holidays. They'll probably announce the Switch 2, maybe not exactly, give all the games that's coming out for it, because they want to use this last holiday push for the Switch to surpass the PlayStation 2 as far as overall sales all time. So what they'll probably do is announce the Switch 2, just give us the last, bit of games that's coming out for the regular Switch, and then maybe do another dedicated direct just for the Switch 2 with the launch titles, maybe in December or the top of the year next year, or maybe in March, who knows? And then we'll probably get the system sometime in the fall. So this is good to see. Again, some of the rumors were that the Switch 2 might have been coming out earlier, but this is part of the reason why it's not. The Nintendo's like, listen, we want to start strong. We want to make sure we have all the best games from our first party perspective to launch the new system. People think maybe a new Mario Kart, new 3D Mario, we won't get a new 3D Zelda because we just got Tears of the Kingdom last year, but something strong. A lot of the third party games, they decided to push back certain versions of games that we thought would come out for Switch 2. Metaphor, ReFantazio, some of the Bandai Namco games like Tales of Arise and Scarlet Nexus, games that we think might come out. So we'll just have to wait and see. But that's pretty much where they're at. They want to make sure all the logistics are correct. And, it's going to be interesting to see, because what I've been thinking about is, this will be our first system launch post-COVID. So during COVID, a lot of things were different. There were some in-store releases and some just get a ticket, and then there wasn't the traditional release schedule that we're used to seeing when it comes to consoles. A lot of stuff was online and things like that. But Nintendo, if they were trying to get as much people to get their new system as possible, there's going to have to be a lot of logistics to figure out, especially in store. I don't think they can just rely on online sales to get, people, as much as people say like online sales have, grown in the past, few years, decade or so. There's still people that go in store. The traditional parent isn't really online. They're just going in the store. So we'll have to see what happens with that. So yeah, I'm definitely excited to pick up the Switch 2 though. I really hope they have an OLED version when it comes out, but that's most likely not happening. Definitely not. But speaking of new systems and games coming to systems or not coming to systems, let's talk about Black Myth Wukong allegedly skipping out on the Xbox Series X. So, let's make a note of my phone. I'm doing the timestamps, which I should have did earlier. But let's talk about it. So, Black Myth Wukong is a game that I definitely like I think it got or we saw the first video footage of it. I think in 2020 or 2021. So you can see the video here. Some of the gameplay. Let me. Oh, it only plays one. Play this one. Oops. So we got some info on it, so we could talk about the game a little bit. So if you don't know, Black Myth Wukong is going to be based on, Son Goku from, Journey to the West, the story of him and everything like that. So it's not going to be an open world. There are hidden paths and bosses. The story's linear, easy to follow, different chapters and levels within them. Side missions, choice and consequence. That's good for a lot of people that like, RPGs and stuff like that. After each boss, you can read the story of the boss. So it's going to be very historically accurate, or historically as far as, mythology and stuff goes. Memorable characters, polished to last detail, creativity in the combat. Wukong's humorous. You could defeat enemies without violence. So the difficulty is more in line with Jedi Fallen Order. So that's something that a lot of people wanted to know about, including myself, because a lot of these Souls-like games, that are the appeal of them, and sometimes the not, what pushed people away is the difficulty. So to me, the Jedi games, Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor, is, a good balance of that. It says there's no difficulty options, however. Bosses are quick and brutal. Normal enemies are weak in comparison. And it says it looks fantastic and plays smoothly. Okay, so here we go. So originally, and I'm almost positive I saw marketing from Xbox for this game at some point, but apparently it's not coming to Xbox, at least not right away. So there was rumors that it wasn't coming at first because of maybe the Series S and the, the lack of capabilities there. And we've heard things like this with like Baldur's Gate 3 being basically a timed exclusive for PS5 and PC because there was no way for Xbox players to play it. But now we see that Xbox made some statements that there might be some shisty things going on behind the scenes that we can't really talk about, or they can't let us know. So originally the game was supposed to come out on August 24th. It says it was confirmed for PC and PS5, and the Xbox versions were delayed indefinitely. So I'm reading this from, what website is this? WCCF Tech. All right, always gotta give credit to where you read it. Okay, so it says we're currently optimizing the Xbox Series X and S version to meet our quality standards. So it won't release simultaneously with the other platforms. We apologize for the delay and aim to minimize the wait for our Xbox users. We will announce the release date as soon as it meets our quality standards. And this is kind of corporate speak a little bit, but it may not be as well. So their standards could be like, we don't want our game looking like crap no matter where it's at. And that could also be a Microsoft thing, right? But after the delay, it says many suggested that the lower power Series S might be causing the problems, because we've heard that before. But in an official statement from Microsoft, from Windows Central, it says there might be some exclusivity deal in place. Now it says, while the statement doesn't directly state as much, one reading between the lines could argue that this might be the case. So it says, we're excited for the launch of Black Myth Wukong on the Xbox Series X and S, and are working with Game Science, that's the company behind Black Myth Wukong, Chinese company. So it's good to see these Chinese and Korean companies. Japan's kind of powerhouse over there, but it's good to see these other countries getting in on it. Working with Game Science to bring the game to our platforms. It says, we can't comment on the deals made by our partners with other platform holders, but we remain focused on making Xbox the best platform for gamers, and great games are at the center of that. So now, that sentence alone, and, Phil Spencer has said things, similar to this, like, oh, whatever money, we put our games on PS5 and they use that money to, or whatever money they make off of that, they use it to keep games off of PlayStation. I mean, off of Xbox. And listen, I mean, the game is a game. I mean, everybody does it. There are exclusivity deals. Xbox does it with Game Pass deals and things like that. So like everybody does it, but I think I don't know. I guess you could say all's fair in love in video games, right? Like there's a limit to what I don't know. I guess there's no limit to what you can do. Like you just hoping everybody's gonna play fair and play ball for you is like it's not realistic, right? So my issue is originally this game was announced to come to all platforms, and then the game's supposed to come out in literally less than 2 months. So the end of August, August 20th or August 24th. And now it's like, oh, but it's not coming to Xbox. So now it's like people who only have Xbox, because people don't realize like everyone doesn't have every system. As you know, more people kind of grab, maybe you get like a Switch or something like secondary, or just maybe you're just on PC, so you kind of play everything anyway. But it's like everybody doesn't have every console, and they were probably really looking forward to it. I was looking forward to it. I mean, I'm gonna probably get it on PC and then just stream it from there because I think it'll be a good stream game. But like that sucks. A lot of people, and it's not even like, oh, it's delayed for a year or 3 months or whatever. It's like we have no idea how long this deal was going to be made, and it kind of just came up out of nowhere, and it's not even confirmed that a deal was even made. So it's like that just kind of sucks for Xbox people, and of course the game is the game, but it's like at the end of the day it's about the gamers. And I don't know. I think there's a way to do deals like this and not like it seems very last minute. Like it seems like they signed this like 2 months ago, and there's not a lot of government regulation when it comes to stuff like that. But I mean, it is what it is. I mean, this is kind of what Sony has to do what they have to do for their consumers and their shareholders and their company to survive. They don't have a lot of big first party games coming for the next, at least until midway through next year, right? Like you had Final Fantasy VII Rebirth this year, you had Stellar Blade, you had Rise of the Ronin, and now you're gonna have Black Myth Wukong for a little bit before anybody else. So listen, they're doing what they gotta do to survive. Again, that it sucks for people that only have Xbox, but it is what it is. I mean, like I said, I'm gonna play on PC. I'm not gonna let them determine if I can play or not. So it is what it is. But speaking of PS5 and exclusives, let's talk about Helldivers 2. So it's being reported that Helldivers did lose 90% of its players over the last month or so. And now I'm not sure if this means 90%. Actually, I do know because I could do the math, but it's 90% of their peak, like where they were before, specifically on Steam. Now, this was a tweet where they were just kind of asking, like, what is the reason? And some people have their replies here. Now, full disclosure, I've never played Helldivers 2. I don't plan on playing it, but I do know a lot of people. I recognize the success of it. It was the fastest selling Sony game, beating Ragnarok. I think it sold like 12 million copies within 12 months. It was a $40 game. It's only online and stuff like that. So it was a big success for Sony, starting off their whole live service initiative. But the main replies that I've seen here on why it didn't, like, it's just fallen off. Some people saying it's bad nerfing. They've been nerfing the weapons. They do a new weapon, then they nerf that weapon. There was a longer reply here. Someone said, okay, it's a video game, and that's just how it goes in gaming. New games come out. We know Elden Ring's big right now with the DLC and stuff like that. And like, I agree. This person said the same thing. They said games come and go. People move on to other things that catch their attention, like the new Elden Ring DLC. It's why sticking to single player games is a smarter and safer option than creating live service stuff. So that's what I wanted to talk about as well. This whole like live service versus single player thing, but we'll get into that. But then this is the part too. People were saying like, "Oh, the PSN profile issue created a ton of bad press." That's true. The whole like, "Oh, we're gonna require a PSN login," did it turned a lot of people off. Even though they ended up going back on that, but still, too many patches taking fun out the game to balance it. That's quote unquote balance it. That's what people were saying too with the the nerfing of the games, and then sometimes the game being broken could be fun, and they were just patching things up, and that's what people say. Like with certain games, like you don't have to patch everything out of it. So, I mean, even if we look at the stream chart, so here we can see the all-time peak for Helldivers 2 was 458,000 players, right? Just on Steam alone. Like that's not including PS5. So that means, I mean, if that was the most on Steam, I don't think PlayStation has a PC store, right? So, but still, that means 500,000 on here, and then I guess the rest was all on PS5. But then here, like 24-hour peak, 35,000, and then right now 24,000. So, to a lot of people, that seems bad. Like that's a fall off, but it's like you gotta realize, like, I guess people are looking at it because it's a live service game and it's supposed to like go on for a long time. But it's like as long as you have 20,000 players, if you could keep something like that going, like if they get new DLC and stuff like that, like people gotta realize like this isn't like people are comparing it to like Fortnite and all these other games. They're like, oh, only Fortnite and Apex and Overwatch and stuff like that could last, but it's like you got to realize those are free to play games. All those games you can just download. Like, of course, people are going to play it forever. Like, yeah, there's going to be a fall off of those games as well. And then the people come back and everything like that. But it's like, this was a $40 game. If you sold 12 million copies, like you made $500 million in 12 weeks. Like, I wouldn't be mad at that if I was Sony. Now, as far as where they're trying to go and their initiatives as far as these live service games and stuff like that, then yeah, you don't want to see that big of a drop off. But like, yeah, of course, like everything's pop. Bro, look at Pow. Let's see Pow World. Hey, 92% user positive reviews. That's crazy. Okay, look at Pow World. Pow World's all-time peak 5 months ago was 2.1 million people. Right now, there's 61,000 people playing, and the 24-hour peak was 115,000. Again, great numbers, and Power wasn't free to play either. It was $30, and it was in Game Pass, but it still was 2.1 million. So, like, are people talking about that? Probably, but it's like, y'all got to realize like everything can't just stay stagnant. Like we talk about how much games come out we talk about games coming out all the time. There's new games come out, and then something goes viral, and then everybody wants to play this, and then all this kind of stuff. And like, I'll be honest, I'm getting very sick and tired of like this whole I'll be honest, I'm getting very sick and tired of the like everyone has to choose a side with stuff like nowadays. It's like, okay, either a single player or a live service, like both can exist, multiplayer, all that. And like these games are kind of like a hybrid where it's not just a free to play game that just relies 100% on microtransactions and skins and all this new stuff and stupid updates that are useless and all that stuff. Like they made their money up front, and then like I feel like people that are so big on single player games are just like they gotta hop on every time something like this happens. They gotta hop on and be like, see, I told you, single player games. If it was a single player game, it went. Bro, if it's a single player game, then that would be it. People would play the game, be done with it, maybe do New Game Plus, maybe not, and then hop on to the next thing. Like, and again, these games, like people like playing them. Like, do I like them adding all these live service or like games as a service features onto single player games or games that used to be single player, or they're like incorporating it in between? No, I don't like that. for sure. But I'm not mad at microtransactions here or there if it's something that, supports the game and the studio for them to be able to keep making games. I'm not mad at these games that are, $30, $40 experiences or whatever, and then you get to play online as much as you want, and then you don't after. Like, they made their money. Like, I don't care about that. Like, I just don't like every time something goes live service, everybody's like, oh my god, another live service. It's like, you don't have to play it, bro. Like, you can literally play anything else if you don't want to. Like, the game doing well or not has nothing to do with us. Like, and then they'll just keep trying every time a new one comes out. It's like, bro, at some point you realize what's for you and what's not for you. I know these games aren't for me. I tried Overwatch for the first time last month or 2 months ago. I like Overwatch. It's actually pretty fun. I tried Apex. I didn't like it. So then I stopped playing it. Like, when these games come out, it is what it is. Like, people kind of act like the whole industry as a whole is just going towards live service only and there's no single player experiences. Like, bro, I can name 20 great single player games we just got recently. Like, I mentioned Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, you had Spider-Man 2, you had Alan Wake 2, you had Rise of the Ronin this year, you had Stellar Blade, you had Jedi Survivor, you had Resident Evil 4, you had Dead Space Remake, you have, like, there's a million games, Stalker 2, Starfield, like, there's a million single player games out there. And, like, let's be honest, a lot of it is, and I'll say it for myself, like, if you don't play with a lot of people like you used to back in high school when you was growing up, these games don't appeal to you. You don't have a lot of people to play with all the time. The games don't appeal to you. But it is what it is, bro. Like, I think people need to calm down. Like, it's not that serious. Like, every game's gonna fall off at some point. If you can consistently keep people getting, like, in the game, have new updates, get new players in every so often. Like, again, like, it's a $40 game. Is a small Arrowhead's a small, like, indie studio. I think they did a collaboration with this through Sony PlayStation Studio. So it's like, again, $500 million. I'm not going to complain about dropping off. Like, it happens to everybody. So it is what it is. But speaking of Resident Evil Remake, let's go to the last topic of the night, and that will be about both Capcom and Sega with remakes. So Capcom had their what was it called? Capcom Next event or showcase, and they showcased a few games. So you see the first game here is Dead Rising Remaster, or it's called like Deluxe Remaster or something. Yeah, Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster. So Dead Rising, for people that didn't know, I think it was a 360 exclusive back in 2006. Now, they did remaster this game in 2016, but then they are now doing another remaster, which looks more like a remake from the side-by-side photos. But a few of the games they showed off, it was just 3 games. So they have Kunitsugami, Path of the Goddess. I keep calling it Kimitsu. I don't know why. But anyway, which is coming out July 19th. So Game Pass, I'm not going to lie, got a lot of good games coming out next week, or in 2 weeks. So you got this game coming out on the 19th, but then on the 18th, you got Dungeons of Hinterberg, and as well as Flintlock, Siege of Dawn. Kunitsugami seems pretty cool. Again, it's a fantasy, like, action strategy game. Hybrid, as you can see here. You get to recruit people. I talked about this game as well in my top games to look out for July, so check out that video. But yeah, it looks pretty cool. Again, there's a demo available. It says it has some crossover content with Okami, so if you want to check that out, the demo is available, and then you have the full game coming in 2 weeks. So if you're subscribed on Game Pass, you could get that. If not, try out the demo, see if you like it. But we have the Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster. So this game originally was a, like, zombie So see here, 2006 original release, and I believe so. You play as a what's his name, Frank something. Sorry, I never played it, so I'm not sure. But basically, you play as a reporter, and you have to get out of the zombie infested mall, something like that. Yeah, you can see Frank West, so that's his name. So yeah, I think the game is just like, so you can see the side by side. Like, look at the original and then look at the remaster. So that's the original and that's the remaster. So they're doing a lot with the textures. You see the models. Yeah, that looks way better. The lighting. It's going to be 4K 60 frames. So you just see the ridiculous weapons you could use. And I heard there's going to be a lot of crossover weapons like there's a Mega Buster in here because it is from Capcom. So it's pretty cool. I mean, it's coming out September 19th, and then a physical version is going to come out in November. So for physical collectors, they don't like this. Like, and I'll be honest, like it is weird. They did the same thing with Metroid Prime, where they had the digital version and then the physical was like later, or whatever. But it is what it is. So yeah, the presentation's obviously different. Like I said, 4K 60, real-time lighting, gameplay improvements, better UI, better NPC behavior, and it's going to come out on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. So it's going to be a true. I don't like keep saying next gen, but and then as I mentioned earlier, you got the Resident Evil 7 coming out to iOS and Mac. But if I have I do not have it open. The creator did mention something about Resident